Hey everybody, it's Christian, and today I'm going to show you some incredible terminal tools for IT pros and tech nerds. Most of them I use nearly every day at work or when I'm working on personal projects. This is a broad set of different command line utilities that I'm using on my Mac or when I'm administering remote IT systems, troubleshooting network issues, and yeah, any other tasks that you might have to do as an IT guy. And using these tools always makes my life so much easier. I hope you'll find the one or another gems in here that you didn't know even existed. Of course, I will put you a list to all the tools with links in the description down below. And by the way, as this is my last YouTube video, at least for this year, of course, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hope you have a wonderful time with your family and friends. Don't get too lost in your tech projects, at least for the holiday season. Okay, so now that I've covered the holiday wishes, let's start and get right into terminal tools. Alright, so the first terminal program I want to show you is kind of a special thing. It's actually not a useful utility, but I get a lot of questions in the comments of my YouTube videos about this program here whenever I'm showing this in the background on any screen. People sometimes believe it is a wallpaper, but it's actually just a very simple terminal program called cmatrix. And this simulates this digital rain effect you might have seen in the Matrix movies. By the way, if you haven't seen the Matrix movies, then immediately stop watching this video and watch Matrix 1, 2, and 3. Let us not talk about the last movie that came out. It just gives me headaches. I don't want to go into this topic. But anyways, yeah, definitely go and watch it. So yeah, the Matrix movies always display these falling green characters on a black background, and this cmatrix program somehow simulates it. You can even customize a couple of these options here. For example, I'm mostly using this command here to make all the characters bold and make the digital rain effect falling down a bit faster with the number 3. But you can, yeah, customize it to make it even faster. Okay, this is probably a bit too fast, or maybe a bit slower, depending on how you want it to look like. I think it's really nice. So yeah, I just wanted to show this to you in the beginning. Now let's cover some actually useful tools. And the first tool that I want to show you is the bat program. So this is a powerful tool that enhances the basic functionality of your cut command. So when you want to print the content of a file in the terminal, so usually the cut command will just put the plain text in white color on the terminal. And when you use the bat command, this will give you some cool features. You can immediately see it, such as syntax highlighting, numbered lines, and some really cool stuff for developers or when you're working a lot with code files on your terminal. Of course, this also works with any other programming language that is popular, like Python, C, whatever. You can even show lines that have been added, removed, or modified when you're working on a Git repository. So a lot of nice tools for developers. I really like this program. And it even gets a lot cooler when you combine this with other programs that I want to show you. For example, the next program that I want to show you is the program FZF, which is a fuzzy finder written in Go that allows you to search and filter through a list of items very quickly and efficiently. So you can use this in combination with any other commands, but when you just use the regular FZF command, this will index any file in the current directory. So when you're executing it on the root directory of your system, this will give you a list of all the files that it finds on your disk. But when you're executing this on a project directory, for example, when I go in my home lab directory and execute the FZF command, it will index and show me a list of all the files of the current directory, also in the subdirectories. And this is really nice. You can also type in any term if you, for example, want to show any files that have Terraform somewhere in the path or in the file name. It also supports mouse input, so you can click on a specific file. You can use the mouse wheel to scroll up and down. And it also comes with a lot of options and customizations. For example, what I like a lot is the preview command that will show a different window on the right side where you can preview any items it finds. For example, when you are searching for files, you can combine this with a cut command. So then you can see on the right side the output of the file that you currently have selected. This is pretty nice. And you can even combine this with the bat command. You just need to make sure that you give it the parameter color always, and then you have a cool syntax highlighting preview for any items in any subdirectories of the current project where you're located. So this is really, really cool. But wait, it even gets a lot more useful because FZF is nice for searching and filtering through files, but you can basically search and filter through any other input as well. So you can pipe the input from a different command, like the docker ps all command that gives you a list of all the running containers on your system. Pipe this into an fzf command, and then you can search for a specific container that is running on your machine. For example, if I want to see if something that is called homepage, this is a container that's currently running on my system. Yep. And you can even use it with a preview window. For example, when you want to execute a docker inspect command and execute this docker inspect command on the first item, which is in our case the container ID here. So this is the first column. So then you have a nice program that shows you all the current running containers, and on the right side has a preview of the docker inspect command. Okay, so the next program is also not less useful. This is called zoxide or zoxide. I don't know how to pronounce it, but this is a small program that acts as a smarter alternative to the traditional cd command and allows you to quickly and easily navigate through directories on your disk. You use it with a z command and just type in the directory you want to enter, just like the cd command. But the cool thing here is that it remembers like every item or every path in a database that you jumped in, and it uses fuzzy finding to try to match any pattern that you give it to a directory. For example, when I want to enter my boilerplates directory, so this is not located here, this is my project directory, but I want to enter boilerplates, I can just type in boil, and it automatically remembers this path here, and the word boil matches in the zoxide database for this path here, and then I'm in my boilerplates directory. This is pretty cool. You can even query the database, so this is a list of all the paths that zoxide remembers, and I use this a lot to quickly navigate through my main project directories, like my home lab project directory, or for example, when I'm managing my DNS, I don't need to remember in which directory I'm currently located. It just gives me that project directory that I want to see. And I really like this program a lot. Small program, but absolutely useful. Okay, so let's get to the next tool. This is the isa command. So you probably have seen this when I'm executing an ls command, because I've created an alias from the older ls command to the isa command. So it's a replacement for the traditional ls command that gives you a more user-friendly and visual appealing way to list files and directories in the terminal, and also has a lot of customization options here. So you can, for example, let the isa command show icons depending on what is the file or directory type. So let's, for example, go in a project directory and execute the isa icon command. You can see the config directory has a different icon because it matches the word config, and the compose.yaml file has a small docker icon because, yeah, it's a docker compose file. It's pretty cool and smart, and I think this gives you a much nicer look in the terminal. I have created two aliases for the ls command, so this will execute the isa command with icons, group first directory, and the ll command to get me a list of all of this. You can easily add those items to your ZSHRC file and use it as a replacement for ls. One thing that is important is sometimes in some older videos, people are mentioning the exa command. This is actually the same, but this project is the older unmaintained version. You definitely have to use the newer fork isa instead of exa. So when you're watching older tutorials, you see exa, replace it with isa. That's a newer project that is maintained and also gets updates. All right, so that's about the isa command. So let me also show you another tool that I really love to use on my terminal. This is yadm. So yadm stands for yet another .file manager, which is a small command line utility for, as the name suggests, managing .files and configuration files in a Git repository. So I really use this a lot to publish my .files, such as the configurations, the ZSHRC file, the aliases, to a Git repository. By the way, if you don't know this repository, you can check it out on GitHub, or you will find a link in the description when you go to my documentation, and this will take you then to the .files directory. So here you can see all the configuration .files that I'm managing with yadm. And the cool thing is it automatically clones this repository in your main user directory, so you don't have to specify a directory, and it just makes it easier for you to push updates to your configs to a Git repository. It's actually just a different interface for Git. So all the commands that you're executing, like yadm init or yadm commit, yadm push, this is just running Git in the background. So if you know the Git command line utility, you also know yadm. It's really just you use yadm for managing .files in your local user directory and Git for your developing projects, but the process is actually the same. And it makes it so easy to just store your configuration file somewhere and synchronize it between different machines. So this is really useful for your personal .files configuration. Alright, so that's it about the most useful command line utilities that I use for these basic things like navigating through directories, managing .files and all of that stuff. But I also wanted to show you some other cool things for network administration and development. And the first program that I want to show you, it's actually a pretty big one, nmap. So nmap is a network mapper, which is a powerful tool for network discovery and security auditing. It's widely used by network administrators and security professionals to identify any hosts or services on a computer network, and this can even create a map of the entire network. This is a huge program and can be used for a variety of different tasks, including IP scanning, port scanning, even advanced stuff with scripts. And I just want to show you a couple of examples how to use this. For example, if you want to check what are the current open ports on an IP address or on a machine, you can just execute nmap on a specific IP address and it will start scanning or sending requests to check if the server has any open ports and what service is potentially listening for incoming connections on this port. For example, when I execute it on my production server, you can see this currently has the port SSH open, so I can connect to this server using SSH. It has an HTTP server, probably the traffic reverse proxy, as well as the port 443 for HTTPS, so the encrypted request. And it also has a bunch of other things that I have exposed different containers on different ports. You can also do other things like scanning your network. For example, if you execute the sn command, so this will not scan the port, so disable the port scanning, but send an ICMP request to the particular machine. You can even use it in ranges. For example, if you want to scan any host from the .10 to .20, it will start sending requests to all the IP addresses and show you a list of all the machines that answered this request. One of the scripts that I use is the SSL cert script. So this will output you some useful information about the certificate of a particular host. So for example, when I'm executing this on my Git service, and this gives me back some useful information, so I can check if the subject alternative name matches the DNS entry of my machine. In this case, this is correct, so the certificate should be trusted. I can see the issuer, where I can see, oh, it's a Let's Encrypt certificate, and also when the certificate expires. So this is really amazing to quickly check the certificate. And what I also sometimes do is I use the SSL enumerate ciphers script. So this, for example, can show the supported ciphers and TLS versions of this machine. For example, you can see a particular host machine is using insecure versions of TLS. So anything below TLS version 1.2, TLS 1.1, or even worse, TLS 1.0 is defined as insecure. So if you see a lower version than this here, you might have a problem and you have to tweak your TLS settings on your machine. That's how I'm troubleshooting those things. If I set some configuration for supporting specific TLS versions or ciphers in my traffic reverse proxy, and I just want to check if that's really working, I can use the nmap SSL enum cipher script. And just like this, nmap has many scripts. You can look it up in the documentation here. So you have different scripts for authentication, for checking exploits. It's a huge tool, but even if you just use it for simple IP scanning or port scanning, this is a must-have for any IT pro to have in the tool set. Definitely. All right, so the next thing is even not less complicated. This is called tcpdump, and yeah, you could also talk a lot about this tool, but I try to make it short, guys. So tcpdump is a packet analyzer for network traffic monitoring, and it's used to capture and analyze packets that are transmitted over the network. Also widely used by network administrators, security professionals, and yeah, anyone that has something to do with networking. So here, for example, when I'm getting all the packets on the ETH0 interface, you can see any incoming and outgoing request or network packet. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on. As with any modern computer, there's a lot of network communication happening always. But you can easily filter it. For example, if you just want to search for a particular port, like port 443 for HTTPS, this shows all the requests that go to this machine and come back from it. So when I just open a different terminal window and just try to connect to this machine, you can see this request on the left side. You can also just filter for a specific IP address. For example, let me just check what is my IP address of my current machine. It should be this one here, yeah. So I can filter for this particular host. Then I only see requests on my server that come from my local machine and go back to it. For example, when I now execute the curl command, you can see this is a request that I just captured, and then I can start analyzing it. So here you can see this is the first part of the request, this line here. Let's make this a bit wider. So here you can see with the S, this is the SYN packet. So this comes from my client machine to the server, and this is like the three-way handshake that you might know from networking. So it sends a SYN packet, the server sends back a SYN acknowledge packet to acknowledge the connection. What I also like to do sometimes is to write this to a pcap file, so then you can analyze it in other programs like Wireshark. If something goes wrong in here, maybe you can connect to the server, you can easily analyze why it has failed using tcpdump and Wireshark. I think this is really also a must-have for anyone who is doing anything in networking. Alright, so I'm just realizing this video is probably getting longer than I originally expected, but anyways, I just want to continue showing you a couple of other things, and I probably need a second window again for the next tool that is called iperf. So iperf is a network performance measurement utility. I often use it to test the bandwidth and performance of network connections, maybe from my machine to a server. You can easily use it by opening a server on one of the machines that you want to test with the S command and open it on one port, for example, port 6700. I think this is fine. Now the iperf server is listening for incoming connection, and from your client machine you can then also connect to this machine on the port. So here, for example, you can see it transferred 1.09 gigabytes with a bit rate of 940 mbits. So it's nearly 1 gigabit, which is the standard network speed for 1 gigabit networking. So this is just as expected. But if you're encountering any problems with low transfer speed or performance issues over the network, you can easily test and troubleshoot what is the real network performance without having any interruptions from any protocols or something like this. So you can really see the raw network performance that the TCP connection supports, and then you can further troubleshoot down so where the issue might be and how fast the network connection actually is on the TCP layer. This is pretty useful for troubleshooting and performance testing. Alright, so I think we have covered enough networking utilities. I know that might not be so interesting for anyone who is not deep into networking, but now I want to show you some other nice utilities for development and stuff. And the first program that I want to show you is the Directory Environment Variable Manager. When you're working on a shell, working on different programs, and you need to load environment variables in your current shell. So usually you do this with an export command. You just define a variable and give it a value. And this is often used when you're connecting to APIs or working on software projects, loading credentials into environment variables. And this variable manager makes it so simple. So for example, when I go into my local project directory I've prepared, you can see it loads 2 environment variables from a .envrc file. So just to demonstrate, when I'm in the main directory where the .envrc file is not existing and I echo the NVA test, it is empty because I haven't exported a particular value in this environment variable. But when I go in this directory, it's loading the environment variables from that file. And I don't have to do this manually, right? So, and you just define it like you would do it on a terminal. You export the environment variable, give it a value, and you can even store secrets in here. So I'm usually excluding those .envrc files from any Git repositories, store my credentials and secrets locally with the correct permissions. And when I go into this project, they are automatically loaded in my shell. This is super useful when I'm working on Terraform projects where I need to load secrets and credentials into environment variables, and then I'm switching back to a different project. Super cool and small project, but I really found this to be so freaking useful when I'm working on, my software projects. So the next thing I want to show you is really useful for any work on Kubernetes clusters. It's actually a collection of two commands, kubectx and kubens. Really powerful because you know this when you're working on kubectl commands and you want to switch the Kubernetes cluster, then you use kubectx, so then it gives you a list of all the contexts that you have stored on your local machine. You can easily switch from one Kubernetes cluster, maybe my local OrbStack cluster, and then I want to switch back to my production cluster 1 or 2. Really simple. And with the kubens, you could easily switch namespaces. So for example, when I'm working on my Authentic project or my Longhorn project or Traffic, I can easily switch to that namespace and then you can work on that particular namespace that you have selected here. By the way, you might remember this interface here, right? This is FZF in the background. So here it's using one of the tools that I've shown you earlier. It's using FZF as fuzzy finding. So when you have a lot of namespaces or a lot of context, you can just type in anything. So a really nice tool when you're working with Kubernetes. You definitely should check it out. And I have one more thing for you, and this is also for developers. This is JQ, so you probably know it already, but this is absolutely amazing. It's a lightweight, but also flexible and powerful command line JSON processor. So it's designed to parse, filter, and transform JSON data. Super useful when you're working on APIs and stuff. For example, when you have a web request to an API like this here, and it gives you a JSON object that has many entries, you can use JQ to filter and search for specific things. What's also useful, some APIs will not give you those nice line breaks in here. You just have one long string of a JSON object and you don't really know what this is. You can just pipe it to JQ and it automatically gives you this nice syntax highlighted and better structured result of a JSON object. So even if it's one single line, it transforms it into a structure. And you can even do other stuff. Like for example, you can iterate through the array and then just show the titles. So one of those items in here, and then you get a list of all these things. Or what you can also do is, can even do more complicated stuff. You can search for if the title contains a specific word, and then it only shows items that match this function. So as you can imagine, JQ is huge, and I can't cover it in this video, of course, but these are just a few examples. I just wanted to show you that this is existing, and this is super useful if you're working with JSON object APIs. So if you're a developer and you didn't know it already, then you definitely have to check it out. Alright guys, so these are some of my most favorite terminal tools that I just wanted to show you today. I hope you found that useful, and if you like to see more videos and tutorials for IT pros and tech nerds, then don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope to see you all next year. A big thanks goes out to all of my supporters of my channel. You guys are really the best and make all these videos possible. And of course, thanks to all of you for watching. I'm gonna catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.